Hello.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Wasn't me.
Big mistake.
It's still training camp for them.
I'll have to warm up.
Chris, obviously, Trent's not here yet. What kind of impact is that having the room here in the early days of training camp?
Just to, other guys have to step up. Jalen gets his reps, which he would this time of year anyway. Trent would usually take a day off, and off-season program, usually Jalen gets all the work. So, unfortunately, it's always been a problem for Jalen. He hasn't had a chance to compete at other positions because he's always kind of filled in for Trent in this time of year. So, obviously, you worry about the guys that are here. And Jay and the guys are working really hard. It's been a good start to camp. First couple of days have been good, and it's been good to see.
What kind of warm-up does a guy who's played 14 seasons like Trent really need? I mean, when would you want to see him come in to get ready for the Jets?
As soon as possible. I mean, the reps that he takes now are valuable. I mean, I think he usually practices we do everything kind of in 3-day blocks, and before we take a day off. And usually he practices 2 of those 3 days, and he usually takes the full amount of reps. I think maybe one of the 2 he practices, one of them he doesn't do individual. Whatever the routine was the last few years, knock on wood, for him, he's remained relatively healthy through the course of the season. It's been pretty fresh at the end of the season. So, but these reps are all important. My thing has been with him for years has been, yes, as a 14-year vet, any player I've had that gets up in years, they still need work. Everybody does. I mean, every position, great basketball players still go out and shoot free throws. You still practice. You still have to practice. You just have to limit the amount of exposures you give them and the amount of pounding that their body takes, and that's all we try to do.
Does it ramp up more once pads come on? That's where you really kind of get going.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ramp up has value from league standpoint as far as getting guys, transitioning back in. I think it has value to the less you do in the off season, the more you need to do pre. There's just a lot of as our strength coach said, it's a moving target right now as far as how to actually do this thing. It's changing, and then if they go to the 2 preseason games, it changes full dynamic again. So there's just a lot. There's a lot to it. So as far as getting any of the guys ready, it's unique. It's really cool. It is cool because it's different, right? All of a sudden now, John Feliciano versus John McPooney versus this guy. You have all these different guys, and how do I get them all ready to go and give them what they need to be able to be ready to play yet keep them healthy, which is our number one priority, which is to make sure you have availability of players, but at the same time, prepare them to play a style of football that's very physical, fast, the way we do things. And it's a challenge.
Christian said yesterday that Jordan Mason has improved a ton since Christian first got here. We've always seen that Jordan's a good ball carrier, but there's so much more to playing running back. Where have you seen the improvements of Jordan?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, he's become a better ball carrier. He was just such a hard-running, strong, physical, tough guy that, he gained yards, sheer willed himself into yards. Now he's understanding the playbook better. Bobby Turner coming back in the building has been, not that anything was wrong with A-Lin, it's just he, the 2 guys have clicked, and so that's really helped. And then he's just matured as a player. He's had a chance to run more routes. He's had a chance to watch Christian run routes. I mean, it's a huge benefit to not only be coached well, but then have a guy that's premier at doing it go like, oh, I can see how that's done a little bit better. And it's a guy that I'm right here with, and I know the guy, so it's helped him in every facet. He's really, really taken off. It's really exciting to see.
Once we get to pads, we get one-on-ones, which is, we all make a ton out of it. How much do you actually make out of one-on-ones?
I don't. I get really mad at one-on-ones. Not that I don't. Guys don't like them because they're saying it's unfair. Yeah, I get it's unfair. I get mad because I didn't realize that front office and media, in Miami in 2004 or 3 when I was there. I remember what year it was, 4. And all of a sudden there'd be a tally in the next day's paper of who won and who lost the one-on-ones. And the guys were furious. And I'd put them out there. And if I threw somebody out there for 3 extra reps, hey, you need to work on X, Y, or Z. And they get beat. Then they go, coach, you just, and then we're yelling. It was ugly. Anyway, my thing is you go there to work on something. That the one-on-ones is a great opportunity and a huge disadvantage for you. A huge, say, this day, I don't care if you get beat every day for 3 weeks. You're working on something, right? Certain guys have weaknesses, and they're going to go work on that weakness, and that they may just get pounded for a while because they can't get. And then they say, "Well, I have to survive the drill." Now, don't survive the drill. Get better. Who's keeping track of? Oh, Bosa beat Trent, or Armstead killed this guy, or Banks can't block anybody in one-on-ones. And some guys aren't very good in one-on-ones, but yet within the setting of an offense or protection, they do a heck of a job. And yeah, they may show up every now and then in a one-on-one, but at the end of the day, it's more of a thing for me to work on it. It's hard to get the rest of the building to understand that. Not get to understand is that it's the only really live work that you get to see. So you should place some sort of stock in it. But it shouldn't, because you have no idea what I've told the guy I wanted to work on that day. And you're like, oh, God, he stinks. And yeah, he stinks because he's working on it. Yeah, he's got to get better. So.
What is your plan at that, or kind of initial plan as you look at the two guard situations? You mentioned Luciano and Tony, that makes perfect. You know, is the parent first stringer after he kind of lost his job? I mean, how do you look at that right now as far as what you want to see in the
Yeah, I mean, you can tell me it's great. It's great, and it's hard. It's not like we're going to be able to just, I think, say this job belongs to, John, or this job belongs to Spencer, or this job belongs to Pooney, or whoever. By the time this all shakes out, who knows maybe who the right or left guard is. So I think Banks is set at right guard spot. I'm not going to say it's like a wide open competition, but it's going to be interesting to see because there's 3 good players, all with different things that they do well and different dynamics to the whole thing. I mean, do you really want, even if Pooney is the best player, I don't know if it's Pooney or Puny, I don't know, but anyway, Pooney, I'll say Pooney, it sounds better. Is that the guy, do you want him out there opening day, Monday Night Football against the Jets? If he's the best player, you do, but like those are bright lights, right? Whereas opposed to Spence and John have done. So there's that whole dynamic, and then it's just who's playing best, who's playing well, how people are, you got to look at John Feliciano as an aging player, say what's best for him in regard to trying to make it to week. Hopefully there's a week, 18, 19, 20. If there are those weeks at the end of the year, then how do you get in there? And what's that look like this time of year and into the season? Same thing with Spence and Pooney. It's all the same. So it's a kind of a fluid situation right now, and that's good to have. Unfortunately, there's not as much time to develop guys or have a competition, but I think it's good.
What's unique about Pooney? What does he bring?
He's a strong, big body. He just has a lot. He's no bigger than most of them, but he'll set the pocket real well. He plays with great anchor. He's extremely intelligent. He's really, really a good player, man. He's a special guy, and he's just not done the position for very long. And with our system, it's a little bit of a change for him, so there's going to be a learning curve. But he's got some real stuff to him. Where a lot of our guards in our system, they tend to be quicker. That's where Banks is a great advantage. Those bigger guys inside do help.
Burford took responsibility after the Super Bowl for missing the block or missing the assignment on Chris Jones. What can a mental mistake like that do, or how has he bounced back from that? What have you seen from him?
Oh, it's brutal. I mean, one of my favorite lines, I remember when in coaching meetings, here we go again. In coaching meetings over the course of my life, we've had coaching meetings, and you're like, it's probably not going to happen. Maybe 1 or 2 times it shows up, oh well. I'm glad you're okay it shows up once or twice. You tell me when it's going to show up, and I'll be okay with it if it doesn't show up in a Super Bowl, in overtime, on second down with a play that could have been a potential big play, right? You don't know when it's going to come. So when it occurs, has huge ramifications. It weighs on you. I mean, every single thing that I did the night before the game in the Super Bowl to talk to my players, to prepare them that week, to get them ready to go. I'm going to get choked up on the sideline. We picked this game to not play our best game, but it happens. It's a game. You go out, you roll it, you go play it. And we didn't play very well. And he makes that mistake. I struggle with it. It's my fault. I prepare him to play. It's my job to get him to do it. And yeah, he didn't. It's my fault. And he didn't have it down. Banks missed a similar thing early in the game. Nobody talks about that one. There was a pressure, and I think he got the ball out, but it wasn't covered good enough. Or if it was, they didn't get it. Because if they don't get it, I can't just say, their fault, not mine. Heck no, man. I'm responsible for those knuckleheads. And those knuckleheads don't do it right. I'm the knucklehead. I'm the guy that's not doing the job right. I'm the guy that's got to get him to do it. But I can promise you, as much as it weighs on me, it weighs on him more because he's the one with the bright light on him. Nobody took the camera over to me and said, there's the idiot that didn't get it prepared properly. That's so it's hard. And coming back from that has been hard. And the conversations with him, at the end when he came in my office after the game, I mean, it was hard. I mean, it matters. This guy doesn't just go, this is my assignment. No. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You don't know. And so, it was tough on all of us and tough on him in particular. He's been great. He's come back, bounced back well, and he's done a good job. And I love the guy. He's doing everything right to hopefully fix a lot of those things.
Take one more.
You mentioned last year that Feliciano got here. Sometimes you don't know what a veteran can do in your system until you have him in the system, and then you figure it out. Hubbard, who brought in as like an 11-year guy who was taking some left tackle reps yesterday. What
Do you think he could make the transition here?
Yeah, I'll say this is that, okay, it's a typical, I've said to you before, I think that you see things on tape. There's little tiny things you'll see the transition. You'll say, oh, I can see this in him, or I can see this in this guy. And you'll say, those are things that translate to our system. Now, will he do it consistently in our system, right? I saw things with Feliciano in a certain part of his game. Hubbard, you see it too, because Tennessee did have some similarities. There were some similarities. You can see more of what we do in Hubbard. And then here's the catch-all, which is Brunskill was there. And Dan Brunskill's a Kyle Shanahan favorite. And so if Brunskill gave him the check and say, this guy can do it for you guys, Kyle was like, Brunskill says, what you say. This guy's playing for us. So Danny said the guy was actually really good at it, and he felt was a good transition. Even though they didn't exactly coach him in Tennessee like we coach him, Dan felt like the guy could make the transition. And so whatever I thought went backseat to Brunskill, but we think the guy can do it.
Chris, you've been doing this for a little while. When you come into training camp and you see
So kind of a little while.
when you come into camp and you see this group of guys, what do you see that's different from the groups that you've coached in the past?
Every year is different. That's what's so great about it. No matter what we are building this thing towards year, Kyle always talks about previous years, and I get it. There have been a lot of people who have been here a long time, but a lot of these guys have. It's just every year's a new dynamic. What I like about this group of guys is I think we've got a couple young guys. These guys have been fringe guys. It's really exciting to see how Zakel, Barch, Pooney, Kingston, not the other guys down the line, how they're going to develop. What happens with our veterans? How does Brandon Parker, do we get a squeeze, a little more out of him or out of Hubbard? Does Jake Brendel continue? Does McKivitz take a step and become? There's just so many little things within this. Banks is coming into a huge year for himself and his future. And all these things weigh on a guy. That's why it's a different dynamic. All of a sudden, Feliciano's, they're all in a different place than they were a year ago. So each guy presents a different challenge. I'm excited because I like them. On the upside, there could be a huge, great group of guys that we got out of from really not, from kind of humble beginnings. And then there's a chance they don't. So all that puts a lot of pressure, but it's really exciting to be able to see how they all play out. And it's really fun to watch them all develop and see the pace with which they do it. And it's what makes my job cool because it changes. It's constantly changing every single day. So,
All right. Thank you, Coach.
thank you guys.